Hi everyone, it's Christine, and today we're going to learn how to pressure can together. Oh my goodness, I turned the video on and the animals just pretend like they've gone completely off the wall. Okay, so we are going to pressure can, and we are going to pressure can ground beef. So, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. I bought a pressure canner a while back. I have pressure canned stock. I made a chicken broth, and I pressure canned that. And I made a pork broth this year, and I pressure canned that, just as kind of like a trial for my pressure canner. And then as I was doing a little bit more research about my pressure canner, I learned that in Canada, we actually don't have any places where you can take your gauge pressure canner to be tested. You're supposed to get tested every year, make sure that your pressure is correctly reading. So before I talked to my husband about this, I called Presto and I said, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm in Canada, I don't feel safe using my pressure canner. And she was like, oh yeah, you're in Canada and you have nowhere to get your gauge tested. And I was like, you know. So what they did is they told me they would send me a one-time, and this is a weight, I don't know, it's like a jiggly thing. It's got 3 pieces on it here. They actually all come apart. So there's the middle section and the top and the bottom. And depending on how many of these you have, when you put it on top of your little steam pipe on your pressure canner, that's what your weight is. So you have a 5, 10, 15? I think maybe, I don't know. 15, 10, 5, right here. They send you this handy dandy little sheet. So the first time I used my pressure canner, I learned how to use it with the gauge. I read the gauge, installed the gauge, and now I'm gonna have to learn how to read the jiggles on this weight, because apparently when it's at just the right pressure, it will like do a gentle jiggle, wiggle. I don't know. So part of me just wanted to throw in the towel and say, you know what? No, I'm not pressure canning. I don't want to do this. Like it's so foreign to me. My parents never pressure canned. I haven't even really eaten anything that's pressure canned ever in my whole life. I'm pretty sure when I was little, we ate some green beans or something, but then, I don't know, we just ate frozen vegetables. The reason I really want to stick with the pressure canning is because we are really moving away from eating a lot of refined sugar. Not only refined sugar, but we're moving away from eating a lot of even natural sugar, other than using it medicinally. I mean, we still have our special treats and stuff, and I still do a lot of baking for the kids. But as far as jams and things go, I was always just so disheartened that I was adding 8 cups of strawberries and then dumping in, I feel like I'm in a shadow here, there we go. And then dumping in 8 cups of sugar. And I wanted my kids to be able to eat this jam freely, but then I never ate it because there was just too much sugar in it, or when I did, I wasn't quite happy. So I tried to make honey jam, and that just didn't, whatever. So I thought to myself, okay, well, we're not gonna can a lot of fruit either anymore. We're gonna move more into canning vegetables. So that's where your pressure canner comes in, because you cannot water bath can many vegetables. I know tomatoes are the whole thing, but don't worry about tomatoes. My other reason for keeping my pressure canner, for really powering through this learning process, is my husband just bought, and my father, 7 beef cattle. I don't have enough freezers for 7 beef cattle. So today we are going to pressure can 14 pounds of ground beef. I'm a little skeptical. I'm kind of worried it's going to taste and smell kind of like dog food. But lots of people do it. Lots of people like it. And we're not going to be eating it straight out of the jar either. I'm planning on just canning it with some salt. And then when we go to put it in our recipe, I will flavor it with taco seasoning, or we will put it in soup with a lot of flavor or broth or something. But being able to get that ground beef, a lot of it, out of my freezer and into my pantry is going to make my life a whole lot easier. Pressure canning also opens up a whole nother world of being able to winter can. If I was doing better with my mental health this winter, which I was not, it was a really long, gray, dark winter, and I just knew that I shouldn't push myself, so I didn't. But this coming winter, I have plans to do a lot of winter canning as well. It really spaces out your work. You don't have to die in the summer because you've got to put up absolutely everything that comes in from the harvest. A lot of pressure canning too. You can use your frozen stuff in recipes, just thaw it out. So when the harvest is in, if I just freeze a bunch of stuff and then can in the winter, if I don't have time to pressure can. The other thing we're doing to eliminate some of the sugar is I've ordered Pomona's pectin. So this is kind of something I've heard of before. I never really looked into it. It's actually made by a company in the States, I think, or distributed. It's actually made in Denmark, and it's made out of lemon peels and lime peels. It's a different type of pectin that does not set on the dependency of sugar. It sets on the dependency of calcium. So with your pectin comes a little package of calcium that you have to mix with water, I guess, and you add just a tiny bit of that to your recipes. But it allows you to use something like 4 cups of fruit to maybe 1 cup of sugar, or you can use honey. It does not have to be sugar. I believe you can also even use Truvia or Splenda are also tested if you just can't have sugar at all. So that's something we're gonna be toying with this year, as well as canning fruits in very low sugar. So things like pear slices and peach slices. The sugar actually isn't added to the liquid as a safety. It's added to the liquid to preserve the color and the texture of your fruit. I don't know how I'm gonna like it with water. My kids kind of like canned pears and canned peaches because they're sweet, but I will probably still put them in a 10% sugar water, or I will get fresh apple juice and use fresh apple juice with it or something. Just try some more things to get sugar a little bit out of our diet. And with canning meat, I really hope that makes it easier for us when we get busy again, either out in the gardens in the summer or when we're busy with our homeschool. We have a lot of plans to do a lot of things that involve us not being home in this next year. Our kids are finally old enough, and we really want to get out and meet some people and do some things, but not be worried about grabbing fast food on our way home. Having meats put up in the pantry is just going to make it that much easier. You just warm up some tomatoes, you just warm up a little bit of meat that's already cooked. Because we work a lot from frozen, it's a lot of work to grab a pound, who am I kidding? I usually cook ground beef by 2 or 3 pounds at a time, and that will maybe give us enough for dinner and lunch the next day. But yeah, just being able to grab it from the pantry is going to be way easier. So decided to stick with pressure canning. I don't know what I'm doing. I'll show you over here what I've got going on so far. So there's our ground beef. It was frozen. This is from our cow that my dad raised for us. We just got it back in February or March. This cow was the black cow. I don't know, they had a black one and a red one, and the black one got a little bit more fatty than the red one did. We ended up with half of the black cow, which means this ground beef is not lean ground beef. This ground beef is regular ground beef. So for sure, when I cook this to pressure can it, I'm going to strain it. won't rinse it or anything crazy, but I will strain it to make sure there's no extra fat. Here are my jars I'm gonna use. They're new, I'm gonna wash them. They're wide mouth, 1 liter. This will fit 2 pounds of ground beef, approximately cooked. I have a feeling I'm gonna be a little bit short with the 14 pounds because of how much fat's in it. But if I am, I just won't pressure can 1 jar and I'll stick it in the fridge and we'll have that for dinner this weekend, or put it in soup or something. Yeah, so to get started, I'm just working on here, kind of decluttering. Everybody, I don't know if everybody does, but we have, like, this is my husband's, like, stuff that has to go to the garage, recycling that has to go out. And when I'm canning, I like to have a really nice, clean kitchen to work with. So first things first, I'm gonna give my kitchen a quick wipe down. I'm gonna take my pressure canner out, and then we'll start putting some things together. Okay, we're back. Kitchen is cleaner. Everything got wiped down. What I did over here in the sink is I washed my jars. Even though they're new, you always have to wash them. If you've ever bought new jars and you open them and you smell them, no. So I washed them, rinsed them, and then I filled my sink up with really hot water, and I put the jars and the seals back in the sink to just kind of hang out. You want to make sure that you keep your jars warm. This is something that's very similar to water bath canning. You always want to immerse something warm into something warm. It just really reduces the risk that your jars are going to break. You also want to check your jars, make sure that there's no cracks in them, make sure there's no chips. I did it even though these are new jars. You just don't know what they've been through, right? So my jars all look really good. My seals are all brand new. The rings don't have any rust on them. So I'm ready to go that way. And I debated whether or not to take you along as I fumble through trying to set up my pressure canner. But hey, if I'm learning and I'm kind of fumbling through it, come along with me. Why not? If you don't need this, if you already know how to use your pressure canner, if you are comfortable, if you have a different style of pressure canner, just fast forward to the part where we got the beef cooked and we got the jars and we're doing the pressure canner thing, or fast forward to the part where I'm cooking the meat and putting it in jars, if that's something that you'd rather spend time watching. But for everybody else, join me, fumble along with me. All right, unboxing, second time only, my pressure canner. All right, again, this is a Presto. It is the one that is induction top safe. There's some stuff in here, but I think it's just, it's actually discoloration. I read that that's normal after your first time. The first thing I remember that you're supposed to do is you're supposed to check your vent. You're supposed to make sure that you can see through it. So, that's the vent right here. And I'm looking through, I can see the other side. So my vent is clear, there's no issues with that, it's absolutely fine. My seal is new, I checked it last time. I don't see the kids have shoved anything in here or that we need to do anything with it. Seal looks good. And this is what I was talking about with the gauge. So you can see on there, it will read your PSI for you. But because I don't have anywhere to get that calibrated here in Canada, that's why they sent me this, jiggly dingus, I don't know. And what you'll do is after this starts steaming, this goes on there. I think I have to take some of these off because I need 10 pounds of pressure for ground beef. So for 10 pounds of pressure, you take off, you're supposed to look just like that. So what I did is this little part here, it just came, it was on there. That's 15 pounds of pressure. And this now is, oh, does it tell you? Oh no, that's just a serial number. That's 10 pounds of pressure. So we've got that. I try not to lose the extra little ring part. That doesn't go on right away. First you have to let it vent and all of this stuff. So when I put it away. Designed for easy, confident home pressure canning. I'm sure it is. Eventually. Learning a new skill is just, it's just difficult. So, let me see here. We're gonna learn before using the pressure canner. Okay, I already did that. Attach the dial gauge nut washer. Yep, you understand. Okay, I don't need to understand the basics of pressure canning though. Okay, somewhere in here I remember that it talked about the pressure regulator. That's this big thing. Is a safety device to prevent pressure in excess of 15 pounds from building in the canner. Pressure readings are registered only on the pressure dial gauge. Okay. Pressure dial can be found in that place. Getting familiar with my pressure canner. Okay. Okay, safety instructions. Don't use it for anything other than what you're supposed to use it for. Replacement parts. Presto and I have already been in good contact. Okay, canning basics I do already have down. How to pressure can food. Before each canning season, have the dial gauge checked for accuracy. That is where I have an issue. I have anywhere to check it. So my husband says to me, I'll just plug it into my air compressor and we'll check the PSI. And I was like, don't want to explode the house. Not that I don't trust you. Probably is fine to test it that way. Like if I was stuck and I didn't have a weight, I really had to pressure can something, I'd definitely allow my husband to test it. But I don't have to. So I'm not going. We're not in a war. I'm not desperate. So I'm just going to learn how to use the weight. Okay. Let me see here. There has to be a section in this fancy little book that tells me if I don't want to use that, how to use the troubleshooting. No, not troubleshooting. Care and maintenance. Oh dear, this is taking longer than I thought it would. I'll be back. You know what's really handy? Reading the insert that comes with your new part. Because that says right here, place the 3-piece pressure regulator on the vent pipe after the 10-minute venting period is complete. Processing time begins once the pressure regulator begins to rock gently. So we want this little thing on our vent pipe to just rock gently. Adjust heat to maintain a slow, steady rocking motion during the process time. So specific. Do not compare or rely on the dial gauge. It's telling me that now this is my monitor, that my dial gauge is no longer reliable, and even though it's going to remain on my pressure canner, do not look at it. Okay. It's only one-sided, simple, easy. We'll go back to the book so we know what we're doing. At some point I had to put some water in this thing. As you can see, this comes in it, goes in the bottom, which is fine. I actually bought another kit because the Presto doesn't come with a second one of those. And what you can do if you're using pints is you can actually stack them in this pressure canner. This is big enough. Here, let me show you. So this pressure canner is actually big enough. If you're using pints, you can put half in, you put another one of those steel dividers, and then you put your next row of pints on top of that, which I think is actually a really ingenious idea. But today I'm going to use quarts. So I know I can fit 7 quarts in here, so that's kind of what we're aiming for. So image of the inside there. to our scheduled programming where we're gonna read the book again. Yada, yada, yada. Yes, I understand how this all works now. It was really helpful to make that broth this winter just to get a feeling for this, to see what I was really going to need to do. Okay, you have to be sure that your canner is cleaned and working properly. It is. We are not canning on an electric stove top, and we are not canning on a gas stove that goes over the recommended heat threshold, so that's fine. I checked the mason jars. It says to check the mason jars for any nicks or cracks or scrapes. And the screw bands shouldn't have any dents or rust in them. Already checked all of that. Everything is washed and rinsed and is hot. Place 3 quarts of hot water and canning rack in the canner. Okay, 3 quarts. 3-quart water line is the lowest mark in the canner. Oh, I see. So you can't see, but along the one wall of my canner, there's actually tiny little marks. So I'm just gonna fill water up to the bottom line. 3 quarts of water is needed regardless of how many jars are being canned. Okay, cool, good to know. Hold the cover up to the light and look through the vent pipe. Did that. If it is clear, we can go to step 8. The overpressure pipe is fine. So this is, we got a little black thing here. That's the overpressure. Oh, there we go. The little black dingus on there, overpressure. The lock is, there's a little lock thing on there. It goes back and forth. This is a safety feature so that the lid, you know, when it's up to pressure, the lid's not going to come off if there's a bunch of steam in there. Okay, now I have to put the water in the canner, put the lid on the canner, and get the canner on the stove to heat up. Heat the pressure canner until a steady flow of steam can be seen, heard, or felt coming from the vent pipe. And then it has to exhaust the steam for 10 minutes before I put my little jiggly dingless on. So you know what I really do need to get on the stove as well is my ground beef, because that's not cooked yet either. All right, I want you guys to be able to see what we're doing. I have thawed this beef, and I'm hoping that it's actually completely, oh, it is thawed to the middle. Thank goodness. All right, in we go. I'm just gonna keep cutting all these bags open. Putting them in here. Actually, I might just go through and cut all the bags open first. That seems to be a wise move. Again, this is 14 pounds of ground beef. I am not going to be adding any seasoning to my ground beef. I'm not going to be adding any seasoning to the hot water that I use to pack my jars. What I am going to be doing is adding salt. I'm going to be adding salt to each quart jar. Right before I can it. I do have to look up again how much that actually is. Forget how much salt you add. When I say it's a tablespoon per quart, but don't quote me. I am going to have to look it up. Probably on the National Institute for Canning. So that's a great place to go. Actually, I should mention that. I'm a fairly conservative canner. I'm not one of those people that says, oh yeah, my grandma did it this way, so I'm gonna keep doing it this way. I don't really have experience like that. Nor do I eat people's canning that can like that. If you're canning for some Amish cookbook that tells you to water bath things for 6 hours and then they're fine, no thank you. I would rather just not. I'm a little bit more conservative with my fear of botulism and all. Oh boy, I might need more. I might need another thing. We'll see. I might need another bucket. But once I break all this up, it might actually cook okay. And I'm not gonna be worried about cooking it super, oh dear, those ones are actually still a little bit frozen. All right, so we've got maybe a couple balls that are a bit frozen. They're gonna go in here and we'll thaw them a little bit more because I won't be fighting with big chunks of frozen beef in here. Oh, this one too. I wonder if maybe I should have stirred them around a bit when they were thawing. Oh, there we go. We're getting smaller and smaller. So I used to actually hate touching raw meat. I'm better with it now, just mainly because I do it so often. However, I do have a skin condition on my hands that flares up when I touch certain spices or starches. So I'm mindful for that. So usually when I do things like meatloaf, I will definitely wear gloves so that my hands don't touch all those spices. But when I have something like plain meat, now I just make sure that I wash my hands very thoroughly. Okay, so I'm gonna get this started while I stick these little balls that are still frozen in the microwave on thaw. And I'm gonna go to the bathroom to wash my hands because I've run out of sinks. I lost my spoon already. Okay, everybody has a favorite spoon, right? This one's mine. It's wood, and it's like got a point on it, so it gets into the corners of all the pots. I just wish I had a longer handle because on this pot, my hands get awfully close to the hot stuff. So I have the rest of that stuff in the microwave, just thawing out a bit more. Again, I just didn't want to battle with frozen bits of beef in here. I'm so happy that this pot actually fit all this meat because this pot is the one that fits best on my stove. I do dream about getting a nice big electric cooker, which would make this a lot easier because your beef would be spread out on a more surface area. I could have put it in the oven, but I really didn't want to turn my oven on, so I didn't. It's coming. I'm just gonna let that go for a few more minutes. Usually when I'm working with raw beef, I'm not overly concerned. I usually pick one towel that I'll wipe my hands on when I'm working with the raw beef instead of washing constantly because I'm also allergic to dish soap. So this is kind of my beef towel, and then once I'm done with everything, I'll go and I'll sanitize the handles and the knobs of the stove and stuff. It's just easier for me. So if you don't see me washing my hands every time I touch a piece of raw beef, that's why. I also know where our beef comes from. It's extremely fresh when it's frozen. I even know the cow that it comes from. So it kind of makes you feel a little bit more at ease. You could probably eat it raw. I wouldn't, but you could maybe. Alright, where are we coming here? And this is absolutely one of the disadvantages of being 5'2" as well, is that you really don't get you're not up here. You're not up here trying to stir. So someday I really hope that I have a kitchen where I can customize an island for myself that I can do a lot of my work at. Even a customized island with maybe a stovetop in it or something that's lower for me. Because even to knead bread is really hard on a standard counter surface. And if you're not 5'2", you wouldn't really understand that, but you just don't have that leverage from up top. So things like rolling sugar cookies and gingerbread, like hard doughs, working with anything that needs pressure, like push down, is really hard because I'm really short. All right, we're getting somewhere here. So I do hope to have a kitchen one day that has an island that's a little bit shorter. Even if the stove's not a little bit shorter. My grandmother, when she was probably 65, 70, she got a new house and she actually got an island that was lower for her because she was probably even shorter than I was at that point. And she baked bread all the time. She was always in her kitchen. All right, we're starting to get somewhere here. Cooking away. Now, like I said, this cow that we had, for whatever reason, genetics, or maybe it was just a little bit older than the other cow that got shipped. This cow is fatty a little bit, even though it was on pasture. Our cows are pasture. They have access to pasture, but they're also supplemented with grain, and they're also supplemented with spent grain from a local brewery. So this is something that my dad's really been involved in, is how to take that spent grain and use it for something so that we have a more sustainable craft brewery system here. So luckily we had some friends who started a brewery, and we were able to do some experimenting with their spent grain. My dad also feeds it to his chickens. Not the only thing, again, they also have pasture. We do supplement with grain. But this beef is amazingly flavorful. And my husband and my father think that it's the spent grain combined with the pasture. So I don't know. I really have never eaten beef from the store. When the couple of years my dad stopped raising cows, I was able to find another local farmer that just happened to have a beef cow that year and had a lot of ground beef that they wanted to sell. So I was lucky that I could get our ground beef from there, and then I just sourced our steaks from a local butcher. So I don't really know what ground beef from the store tastes like. My girls are here. My son is with my dad, but the girls are around. It's finally a rainy day today, actually. If you are in the United States, you've probably heard a lot about all the Canadian wildfires that are making your air really horrible. We're actually in southern Ontario, and our air is also horrible. But rain today. It rained a little bit last night, and that's the first time it's rained in a month, maybe more. So it's actually, today we're supposed to have a really bad smoke day, but I hope they're getting rain up there, and definitely for us it has taken some of the smoke out of the air. Anyway, my girls are around, they're playing. I think they're downstairs right now, watching a show. They might be rainbow looming. Ooh, my leaning tower of beef. Also, hate over the stove microwaves. Hate, loathe, would never, ever, no. No. When we bought this house 8 years ago, I was really, really disappointed about a couple things. I was really disappointed that they renovated the kitchen. Not that they did a bad job renovating the kitchen, but it was really bland. It wasn't my style. I kind of wish they would have just left it and let us do it. I know why they renovated it. Anyway, so then at that point you can't justify ripping out cabinetry that's a year old. Well, I couldn't anyway. As well as the appliances were all very much like new. So when I moved here, this house came with a fridge, a stove, the over the stove microwave. Also came with a washer and a dryer. And my husband had promised me when we moved, we were going to be able to renovate the kitchen. We didn't expect to be able to afford something that was already so renovated, actually, which a blessing in disguise. It's been 8 years now, and this kitchen has been wonderful through all of our little kids and our babies. We were able to, all those cabinets over there actually that you see were not here when we purchased the house. They were cabinets that my husband took out of a job that somebody was getting rid of, so we added them to that wall, and I'm very thankful for that extra counter space. So we just matched it. The counter's just a cheap counter from our local home hardware, and it has taken absolutely all of the abuse that we have thrown at it. Am I ready to renovate my kitchen? Yes, I am. Yep, there are things that I want, that I think that I need. Is this the worst kitchen in the world to work in? Absolutely not. The kitchen in our old house, in our first house, was this tiny little like galley kitchen. That we also, we renovated our first home from top to bottom. So I mean, it's not that we were spoiled in our first house either. I'm just really waiting for that day where I get a really nice space. And it's coming, and we're working on other parts of the house and yada yada yada. However, I'm very quickly learning the things that I want in my forever kitchen and the things that I do not want in my forever kitchen. Over the microwave, or over the stove microwave, is one of them. For starters, it doesn't give you enough room for things like this pressure canner. Like the gauge is almost too high for the microwave door. When I am water bath canning, I can't have my water bath canner on the back burner of the stove because I can't lift the jars in and out because the microwave is too low. So I'm constantly having to slide my heavy water bath canner back and forth on my stove, which is not ideal. However, my ideal stove also has 6 burners and probably 2 ovens. So it's going to be quite something that we want to save up for. But I really believe in the power of nutrition and in having a workspace that allows you to give your family that. So it's something that we think is important. We kind of put it at the top of like our budgeting and stuff like that. We certainly do without other things so that we can do house renovations. Really bubbling. Now that my hands are clean, I'm going to switch to a clean towel. So as you can see, when you're canning, you just try to keep everything clean. That's kind of my number one goal, is to make sure that things stay clean. Oh dear. All right, I might need to get out actually like a spoon or a second pack for this, because I'm really stubborn. Once I get one pot dirty and I've decided I'm not going to be using 2 pots, I really don't like using 2 pots. But I have to. I might actually speed up my process. Beat this sleeping puppy back there. She's everywhere that I am. I wanted to show you guys this because, oh, there we go, perfect. That now has locked, which means this is now venting steam. It has to vent steam. Oh no, it doesn't. Guys, I screwed up. Okay, so first you put the jars in the pressure canner, then you make it steam, and then you do this. Oh dear. It's all part of the learning process. I wasn't even paying attention. So, yeah, that has now stopped. My PSI reading is still 0. It hasn't built up any pressure at all. So what I've done now is I've just heated up the water in the canner, which you can do without the lid being on. Let's consult our little thing here. So when I was reading to you guys, I was like, oh yeah, I totally know what I'm doing. And I was like, oh, I'm just not gonna skip over that because I know what my food looks like. Okay, no. Place 3 quarts of hot water and canning rack in the canner. So all I was supposed to be doing there is, without the lid on, I was supposed to be warming up the water in the canner slowly while I cooked my beef. Yeah, so this is all a learning process, guys. You're gonna have to just keep right along with me. I recognized my mistake, and now we're gonna wait. The pressure didn't ever build up. The lock went like right back down again. So I'm gonna follow carefully the steps for removing the lid once you're done, which is over here. See, it locked and unlocked again for me. So to remove cover, when pressure has been completely reduced, remove the pressure regulator from the vent pipe. So I never put that on. Let it cool for 10 minutes and do not remove. Okay, the airlock dropped already. So I'm gonna take the lid off. It's hot now. And then once I have my cans full of beef and boiling water, I'll put them back in the canner and we'll try this again. Okay, I'm back. I'm really thankful I recognized my mistake before I pressure canned nothing. That is really why I debated taking you along for the learning process, because really when you're learning, you make a lot of mistakes. But I find that on like YouTube and Instagram, people don't show you how they got good at something. Anything that I've ever become comfortable with or gotten good with isn't something that I just woke up that day and was like, oh, I'm going to do this. And now I like do it all the time and I'm really good at it. That's not how this works. Like, you have to put in time and effort, and you have to make like mistakes that hopefully don't blow up your head. Okay, so our beef is done. It's cooked all the way through. I'll just show you down there a little bit. Beef. You can see that fat is rising to the top. So you don't want a lot of fat in your, when you're canning, because the fat can actually interfere with the seal that you are going to get if the fat gets in between the seal and the rim of the jar. So that's why they say to take off the fat from things like canned meats and broths. And especially like this is extra, like it's a regular ground beef, not a lean ground beef. So I didn't overcook it. I only cooked it until it was just barely done, so that I know that there's still gonna be a little bit of fat in the meat that will cook out when I'm pressure canning it, and I'm perfectly fine with that for this learning experience, because fat's where the flavor is. I don't wanna take all the fat out of it. Okay, I'll turn you here. You see the sink and kind of see what I'm up to over there. Oh, we lost 100%. So this pot clearly still had more in it, and that's fine. don't mind just holding it here. I'll drain out, just let the fat strain from in the pot yet. Should I have my hot water running? I should. I need another hand that I don't have. You can see in my other sink here, those jars are still hanging out in hot water. Behind me, I had boiled my kettle previously so that I would have hot water to top up these jars with. If I need more, my electric kettle boils water super efficiently. There we go. So I'm not overly concerned. I'm actually going to turn you back here. Raise it down a bit. Okay. Yeah, I sing to myself. Anyone else sing to themselves when they're canning? So everything's gonna go in here. All right. Sorry, I lost more beef in the sink. All right, just a little bit. Working in this quantity of beef, I would say, is quite the undertaking. I don't know if it would be easier, maybe if you just wanted to do a round of pints or something. That might be easier. Beef, clean jars, salt's behind you actually. So you add 2 teaspoons of salt to every jar. Let me see if I can get a good angle at this counter here. So this is the salt we're gonna be using today for no other reason than this is the salt that I have. Jars. 1, 2, 3, 4. We will leave the other ones in there for now. Hot plate. Hot plate. Bucket. Funnel. Spoon. Okay. Now, the recipe, I believe, said this needs 1.25 inch head space. So to me, that means that's to the bottom of that line there is about 1 inch. So I'm gonna leave like a good inch, because I know these will have a little bit more fat, or a good 1.25 inches. These will have a little bit more fat that come off of them, and I don't want that interfering with the seal. Now, the other thing you really have to take into account too when you are pressure canning things for the first time, or canning things for the first time, it's just gonna take you, it's gonna take you longer. So I'm gonna kind of use that spoon as our tampering down spoon. There we go. And we'll move to our next one. This one. Now, as you can see, there's still some pretty big chunks in here of meat. I heard that if you stir it around a little bit less, like leave a little bit bigger chunks, then it is a better texture after you can it. Like, I don't really know. So do that. That goes over here. And again, I'm just trying to work as fast as I can. This is why I kind of removed my distraction today. Not that I refer to my children as distractions, but when I'm learning a new skill, I know that I need to concentrate. So this, for me, is what I consider work. Like, this is my job. My job is to provide our family with healthy meals to the best of my ability. And you don't expect anybody else to try to do a good job at anything while they have a child interrupting them every 2 seconds. Also, it's not fair to my kids. The girls are fine. They're just like doing their own thing. But for Henry, he's still little. He would have a difficult time entertaining himself for the amount of time I knew I need to do this. Once I've done this a few times, will I do it with him home? Absolutely. Once I know where I can pause, once I know where, if I need to shut everything off, I can. Once I know where I can't shut everything off, or I really need to babysit it, it'll just get easier. I know some people like to can, like with their friends. Again, for me, so I have 2 teaspoons in here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, I need some sort of poker tool to get all the air bubbles out of there. We usually have some extra chopsticks lying around. My water's just coming back up to a boil. While that's happening, I'm also gonna get my vinegar ready to wipe my rims. So the vinegar will make sure that any fat that did get on the rims of those jars is gone. Okay, white vinegar. Get in here now. Just get a little bucky. I lost the lid to my vinegar, but that's just the way it's going. Okay, well, there it is. Now, water, boiling water. Oh, there we go. Okay, to 1 1/4 inches. Boiling water to 1 1/4 inches headspace. Whoa, okay. Yeah, there we go. It's already letting all those air bubbles out. Now, it might happen that I fill all these up and then I have to go back and fill them a bit more when I debubble them, and that's perfectly normal, perfectly fine. Oh, okay, there we go. Gonna just take that out. I'm gonna just make sure that we don't have any air bubbles stuck like in the middle here. And yeah, see, I don't know if you can see, kind of that liquid level is going down in the jars, which means that we're making, that the air is coming out. You see that one? So the air bubbles are all coming out, which means that liquid is filling up the little air holes in all the ground beef, which is what we want. And we will just top it off with a little bit more water. There we go. Oh, this is working really well. Usually this step is called for in water bath canning to debubble it. But honestly, I never really know why with jams and jellies, or applesauce, which is what I mainly do, because jams and jellies are like a jam or a jelly. Like, they don't have little spaces like this or crevices where air can really creep into it. And neither does applesauce. And then when you boil it, it causes them to get all really bubbly and everything anyway. So I don't do it with jams and jellies. I don't know if that's bad to say, but I definitely see the importance when you're working with something with ground beef that has a lot of opportunity to, oh, there we go. Okay, tap this one up. Too. Okay, I think we have 1 1/4 inches in all of them. them. And now we're gonna take our clean dish cloth, brand new clean dish cloth. Just dip it in our white vinegar. So the white vinegar is gonna help take off. Okay, slide that back. There we go. We're just gonna wipe the rims really good because I know that I wasn't super careful. Okay. I don't know. Yeah, that should be like down in the liquid there. There we go. There we go. Okay, I'll wipe that one more time. All right, and now in here we have our stuff. I just dripped a little bit of fat in the sink. I can see it. So I don't want these jars to have any fat on them, any of these lids to have any fat on them either. It's definitely something I'm gonna have to see about when I do this again. And now, trick part, finger tight. So finger tight to me is that that won't go anymore. One more little turn. Okay, won't go anymore. One more turn. Won't go anymore. One more turn. Won't go anymore. One more turn. That's it. You guys have kids who grab your covers. I know all my canning stuff is everywhere in this kitchen. I know where it is usually. Okay, so we've got this. I'm actually going to turn my canner back on. And now we've got these ones ready. They're going to go in the canner. Rinse, because I've got a couple left. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And now I'm just trying to go intentionally slowly. I'm keeping everything kind of separate, like my salt and my vinegar, making sure that I don't miss a step. So if you can beef, like ground beef ever, and you have any tips for me, or you see that maybe I'm doing something that you wouldn't do, or maybe something that would make my life a little bit easier being able to do this, I would really appreciate it. Again, this is my first time canning ground beef, but this means that I don't have these 14 pounds of beef in my freezer anymore, which will free up my freezer space for some other things. All right. Okay, I think those are gonna like debubble down to definitely the correct headspace. I'm not gonna tamper those ones down. Not really sure if you're supposed to do that actually. Might make it too compact, maybe. I'm just trying to, I see that there's a little bit more fat coming out of the beef now, so I'm just trying to give it a nice little squeeze as I put it into the jars. And I might have actually a little bit extra. I thought maybe I wouldn't have enough, but I'm not gonna be overly tricky. There we go. Okay, now we're gonna add boiling water. So my kettle is actually insulated. I bought it for this reason. It stays hot for a really long time. I might, however, I'm gonna need to boil more. Oh no. Okay. It's okay. Quickly fill this up, boil a little more. I should have done it last time. Again, part of the learning process. Now I know. This is gonna come up to boiling really quickly again. While that's doing that, I'll get the bubbles out of this one that I canned. So, if you're in our local area and you are looking for beef, please contact us. Our cattle are going to be ready to go in the late spring next year. Looks like that beef's going to be for me for snack. We're just going to wait for that water to boil. Our can of water is actually heating up there with our pints in it. While we're waiting, we can do our salt. So 2 teaspoons. Ingredients, unrefined salt. I really don't know what all sorts of special things are in here. I was hoping I'd read the back and I could share some information with you, but basically it just says, yeah, it's salt. Okay, my water's already up to a boil, which is the blessing of electric kettles. Okay. Fill that one up more. Get that one a little more. Get this one. Yeah, you guys can have a snack. Have you?
Why does it smell bad?
Because I just browned a bunch of beef. That's all. Do you have any of the cherries yet that are in the fridge?
I do.
There's cherries, yeah. I got them yesterday. Grab yourself a bowl of cherries. Okay. Get the water out of these ones.
Why is the milk in no bag in it?
Because I just put the milk container back in the fridge because I didn't want it on the counter. Okay, so this one needs a little bit more. That one needs just a smidge more. And I think we're good. Salt. And now we're gonna, with the rims, I'm gonna use the clean side of my cloth, dip it in a bit more vinegar, give these a good clean. Yeah, there we go. 1, 2, and 3, and finger tight, finger tight, finger tight, and 1, and 2, okay, 3, Oh yeah, the weather is nicer. Okay, let me share with you. There you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quarts. Almost 14 pounds, 13 and a half pounds for sure. Now we put the lid on. Okay, my lid's on my pressure canner, and now it needs to heat up again, and the steam has to come out of the vent pipe like I showed you before. And it has to do that for 10 minutes before I can put my weight on and we can start timing. I need to figure out what time it is. So the National Institute for Canning does have the times on there. However, this book, which I'm absolutely planning on making a whole lot of things from this year, by the Canning Diva, The Complete Guide to Pressure Canning, has a section for meat, poultry, pork, beef. So there is a chart here, and what you do is you find what cut you're using. So there's chuck, round, stew meat, or ground. So I'm using ground, cooked and fat drained. I did that. I got 14 pounds. It's a hot pack, so I'm going to put 2 pounds in each quart. Processing time for quarts is 1 hour and 30 minutes. And if you are using a weighted gauge, you need the 10 weight, which I prepared my weight for earlier. So now we wait for it to vent and we do some dishes. Okay, my canner's been steaming now. I don't know if you can see the steam coming out of there. This is locked again, which it actually should do this time. The food's inside of it. I have my 10-pound weight here. So in 15 seconds, we're going to be able to start building pressure, I guess is technically the right term for it. 4, 3, 2, 1, timer off. Now, this goes on. Now, in theory, we've plugged its vent hole, which means inside this pressure canner now, the pressure is building. Our lock is on. And it's not wobbling. So my heat is pretty high. Let me wait for it to wobble. Any second now, the little jiggler is gonna start jiggling. Look at it go, it's jiggling. Oh, okay, so it's supposed to jiggle gently when it's up to pressure. I would say that's jiggling gently. I'm just gonna turn the heat down like a little bit on my stove. I'm gonna watch the flame here. Okay, flame. Okay, there we go. We were up there. Now we're gonna turn it down to there maybe. And we're just going to timer 1 hour, 30 minutes. Let me double check that time again, make sure that's how long we're actually supposed to do it. And now we just let it jiggle gently. There is 24 minutes left on the timer. It's actually gone by pretty quickly. And what is absolutely amazing about the little jiggler weight is you can hear it. You can hear how it's rocking. I think this is a little bit too much. However, this burner, there's no happy medium. I tried to turn it down just slightly, and then it doesn't rock quite enough, I feel like. So this is just kind of what I'm gonna roll with, and next time I'll probably actually move it to this burner. But weight compared to gauge, I found it so hard with the gauge because I literally last time, I can put my chair in the kitchen and had to watch the gauge the entire time because if it goes below pressure, you have to start your time all over again. But with the jiggling weight, I can hear it. So I've been in the other room doing a few things, and I've just been keeping an ear out to make sure that I can hear that continually. Pretty neat system. My timer went off and I've turned off the heat, and now the other second most difficult thing we have to do is leave it. Don't touch it until the pressure has come completely back down to 0. Okay. It's still hot, but the pressure is totally gone. Now we open. Okay, away from us. And those are still the dirt. Those are still the dirty rags. Let me get our clean rag.
Off the table.
Yeah, you can go play. It's been kind of a strange day with our youngest at Grandma and Grandpa's, and then my husband was at my parents as well. And then the girls have been at a friend's place since the friend got home from school. And I just sent them word that they had to come home and find some dinner if they were hungry. So they just came home. They're quickly gonna do their chores so that they can go and play for longer at the friend's house, which is fine because I have wet time. Probably gonna go put on a sweater and take my canning book outside. All right, so.
What is that? It smells bad.
It smells bad. It just smells like plain ground beef. That's all. Okay, let's pull this out a little bit. Okay, I got one.
It almost smells like rotten chicken.
It does not smell like rotten chicken. Invite your children to do canning with you. Two. I swear, no matter what fuss she puts up, it does not smell bad. It smells like plain ground beef. It might smell a little bit like beef fat or something, like a little bit odd. It doesn't smell bad. But
it looks like it's alive with the jug.
it does look like it's alive. It's something. It's interesting. That's for sure. All right. Okay, now this is still super, super hot. So all I'm gonna do is push it back. I'm gonna let it completely cool before I give it a rinse out. And get it cleaned up and ready to pack away. Let's take a little peek at what the jars look like. So here we go. I bet the canner sat for quite a while cooling down. Probably like a solid half hour, 40 minutes it's been sitting. I went and did a couple other things. Anyway, it's still very hot, and as you can see, like the beef is still very hot, but I mean, it looks good, actually. It looks much better than I thought ground beef, like canned, was gonna look. And I'm actually really excited to give this a try. So my next step with that ground beef is to let it sit. I'm not even gonna touch it until tomorrow afternoon. And at that point, I will take the rings off and I will test the seals, make sure everything's sealed, and we will label it. It'll go into storage. And I will definitely post an updated video when we try some. I'll probably let it sit for a week just to see what it's gonna do in a week. I don't wanna eat it right away. And fingers crossed it's actually good. I don't know. We will see. I'm gonna try to stay positive that it's gonna be absolutely delicious, because this would make my life so much easier to have ground beef already cooked, shelf stable, ready to grab and throw in whatever meals that we have going on. Anyway, thank you. I know it was a bit chaotic today. We were learning together. It's all part of the journey. If you liked what you saw or you want to follow along, definitely like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And that way you'll get the notification as well from when the video comes up and I'm gonna cook this beef and try to feed it to the child in there that has said she's not gonna eat it. I hope you all have a great day.